In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a few UI automation inspection tools, mainly the UIAViewer, which we saw in the first video, but also another tool called Accessibility Insights, which can even give more information about UI automation elements. So let's get right into VS Code and let's run UIAViewer by pressing F5. And let's open this notepad window to inspect. So for now, let's stop capturing and take a look at the UIA tree. The UIA tree contains all the elements the window has. So in this case, we see that the element at the top, or the main element, is the window element. This is the biggest element, and it in turn contains all the visually grouped things or elements inside of it. In the case of Notepad, we see that it has a document, it has a status bar element, a title bar, and a menu bar element, which in turn have smaller elements inside of it, such as this menu item of file or edit or so on. In the UIA tree, elements that are next to each other are usually also visually next to each other. So in the case of these menu items here, we see that in the tree they are right next to each other, and also in Notepad they are actually next to each other. And the same goes for the menu bar and the title bar, which we see are right next to each other. So next, let's take a closer look at the individual elements. For example, this file menu item, it has a type of menu item, which simply describes what the element can do or is. In this case, it's a menu item, which it is, or it could be a button or a text element or so on. The next one is localized type, which is simply the type but translated into the language that you are currently running in your computer. In this case, it's in English, but it could be in Spanish or Chinese or whatnot. The next is the name of the element, which describes the element in some manner. So in this case, this has the name edit, and it also has the word edit visually here. But if it didn't have any text representation, for example, this document is totally empty, then in this case we can see that its name is text editor, which gives some insight into what the element does. In this case, we can edit text in here. The next one is value, which at the moment is empty because this element doesn't have a value inside of it. So if we typed something in it and captured it again, then we see that it has now the value ASD, which I just wrote in it. The next one is automation ID. This is usually missing, but some Windows such as Notepad have this, and it should be a unique identifier for the element. So we could easily use it to search for the element. The next one is the location on the screen and the size of the element, width, height, and X and Y coordinates. These are relative to the top left corner of the screen. The next is a class name. In this case, this is edit. It could have a description or help text. It could have an access key. So in the case of this file menu item, we see that it has an access key of Alt F, which means that if we press Alt F, then the file menu opens up. Then it has has keyboard focus or is it keyboard focusable, item type, is password, and so on. The next in UIAViewer is the patterns group. Patterns are simply what we can do with the element. Where properties describe what the element currently is, then patterns actually let us do stuff with it. In the case of a menu item, we can see that it has an expand collapse pattern, which means that it can be expanded or collapsed. So if I double click on it, then we can see that the file menu expands. And if it were expanded already, then we could collapse it. And also in the case of patterns, we have some additional properties related to the patterns. So in this case, expand collapse state could tell us is the file menu item currently expanded or collapsed. Patterns differ for different types of elements. For example, here we can expand and collapse it. In the case of a button, we can invoke it, or that means click it. Or in the case of a document element, we can interact with the text inside of it. Next, let's take a look at accessibility insights. So Accessibility Insights is a tool provided by Microsoft which gives some deeper information about elements and also lets us test out the different patterns. So if we inspect the notepad in it and pause the tree, then we can see that this document element has a lot more properties than we saw in the UIAViewer. This also shows us all the pattern properties, such as in this case the scroll pattern, and it has a lot of different normal properties that all elements have as well, such as live setting or orientation and so on. And with accessibility insights, we can also easily test out the patterns. So in the case of a value pattern, we can open it up, try to set a new value, such as text. And when we run action, we see that the text got changed into the value we wanted. Accessibility insights can also be used to detect events, such as if the user has typed something into no later video. So this is it for now. In the next video, we're going to be trying out a small example using UIAutomation library. Thank you for watching.